Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. This is City Talk. He has been affectionately called a crank, a scold, a public nuisance, and an inspirational curmudgeon and an ink-stained fetch. He's a New York treasure, a chronicler of his city, a teller of tales, a reporter of lives, a Pulitzer Prize winner, and a losing political candidate, a Queens guy. That's you. It's Jimmy Breslin. And he's written a terrific new book, The Good Rat, a true story. About
First of all, wait a minute.
What?
First of all the names you call me, I go with one of the many attorneys who's always come to my aid taught me. Deny, deny, deny.
Okay, you're none of those things.
Well, I gave you my answer.
But you've written a book about your favorite people.
I stand behind the book.
Okay. Mobsters,
Absolutely.
Small-time crooks, amiable rogues, and it's 4 decades after your classic, The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight.
It's very good English. Let's get down.
We'll get to the very good English.
Yes.
You like this book, don't you?
Yes.
Why? What is it about you? You smile and there's...
It's a good book. It's a top book.
Meaning what? Why do you like it?
Because it's written as well as I've ever done, I ever can do, and it entices people to read on. You could get a smile out of it, and you can get some information out of it. I think it's pretty good.
I loved it. I think the reviewers loved it, too. I mean, the Los Angeles Times loved it.
Yeah,
the Cleveland Plain Dealer loved it. The New York Times on Sunday loved it. Come on.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask for better reviews.
Yeah.
Okay, now.
No, there's no such thing as better reviews than this book. No such thing. Ever.
You're excited?
No.
No?
Too late.
You're
in the
too
game.
old?
Too late.
You're too late?
Sure.
You love mobsters.
Well, I like the fact there's interest in them. Yes, they're interesting.
You said they're not boring.
No, that's the thing. Hedge fund operators are boring.
Well, wait a minute. You were quoted in New York Magazine about shooting hedge fund operators.
You get the mafia to line up all the hedge fund operators, these smooth-faced Protestants making $30 million a year.
So you like Catholics and Jews better, obviously. No, go ahead.
You line them up on the wall and have the mafia come in and shoot them all.
Nice.
Then you arrest the mafia for the murders, and you know what you've just done? Eliminated crime.
Crime in the suites and crime in the streets. Very good, Mr. Breslin.
Very good.
You read this book, and there seems to be one defining characteristic of mobsters. What is that? What do you see as the one characteristic? Greed.
Yes.
Also, the other thing that struck me is these people don't like to work.
That hit the whole thing. That's why you can't ever eliminate crime. Here's a business crime where you hate school.
Right.
Half of them are out of in grammar school. They don't even last.
Right.
High school, forget about it. That's like going to prison. You can go out. You don't have to get up in the morning. You can get money. You can get jewelry, clothes, cars, broads, everything, and you don't have to work. Not once.
Is this a Jimmy Breslin endorsement of the life of crime?
No, because then they put on the bracelets.
Ultimately, the bracelets come.
Yes.
And this is the education of the mobster?
No, there's no more education after that. The sentences are so long now, you're through.
Well, we're gonna talk about that. This book is part a story of a particular criminal case, but it's also your story. It's a memoir.
Yeah, but it's one thing. It's the witness.
You had a eureka moment in this.
I went to start the case, the trial. I had promised to
talk about what the trial was.
2 detectives, the 2 mafia detectives. They were Eppolito and Caracappa. They were steering people that get killed by the mafia. They were stealing information, telling mob guys what's coming, what to do. And they accounted for a lot of murders, did a lot themselves. Now the publisher asked me to do a book.
On these two guys.
Yeah, so I said yes when I meant no. I always do that. So I talked to them out in the hall before the trial started one day. Eppolito and Caracappa. They were on bail. The trial was about to start. I talked to them. Everybody was jovial, and I hated them. So I went inside.
What was it about
I don't know,
them?
not my people, that's all.
Okay.
That much evil never was mine, you know.
Okay.
So I go in, I sit down, and I figure I'll call at lunch the publisher and tell them, forget about it. I can't spend 6 months or more.
And you said you couldn't write 70,000 words about these guys.
70,000 words about this, forget about it. Now the door opens and a guy walks in, a businessman. I thought he was preliminary prosecution witness. He had on a shirt and tie and suit, glasses, receding hair. He was in his 60s, just starting. He sat down with your name, Burton Kaplan. Well, I figured he was like the accountant that was going to give them up. And they said, where are you? Now I'm presently incarcerated at Allenwood Prison. Are you in the Mafia? And he says, no, I can't be because I'm Jewish. With that, I sat up. I says, now look at this, my man.
You've got a eureka moment. So, but this guy's an embezzler, a drug dealer, a fence for stolen goods, a murderer, a money launderer.
Everything. They asked him what crimes he committed. He said, murder, manslaughter, grand larceny, burglary, everything. But the best was when he said stolen Peruvian passports. I wanted to clap. I had to sit in a chair. It was great. Everything but killing babies. So I asked him, did you ever commit a crime in prison? And he said, yes, I was assaulted. So I had a friend send me $1,000, and I gave it to a Mexican, and he assaulted the guy back. He assaulted him pretty good, too. Then he looks out at the courtroom, and he says, that's what prisoners like, you know. And I says, Dostoevsky. That's all I could think of.
Right. Now, I read that remark that you did, and I went back to Crime and Punishment.
Yeah.
Is he Raskolnikov?
Yes.
In what
I'll
way
tell
is
you
he
how.
Raskolnikov?
Well, wait, I went across the street to get a cup of coffee at noon, and Bettina Shine, a lovely woman, works she's a defense attorney. She was working with Bruce Cutler.
Who was the lawyer for one of the defendants.
Yes, for Eppolito. And she walked up to me and she said, without me getting the word out of my mouth, she said, how do you like the witness? And I was starting to say Dostoevsky. She said Raskolnikov. And that was it.
Okay. Explain, I mean, you know.
The coldness inside.
So, yeah. And Raskolnikov believing that he was in some way extraordinary and beyond the rules of, of the moral rules.
Yes, of course.
They're totally amoral.
Completely.
But Raskolnikov was introspective. He finally goes, great, these guys aren't introspective.
Well,
they
Kaplan
just do
was.
it. Well,
Kaplan, that was the same thing. He thought about it.
Yeah, but he thought about it simply to get his rear end out of jail.
No, he was going on for years without having to do it. He was a last believer in Omerta. That comes from the hills of Sicily. He believed it in a Jew.
Explain Omerta.
Well, you never talk. You
don't
never
rat.
Talk. No.
You don't? Yeah, but he rats.
Yes, of course. He said that they asked him, what is a rat? He said, what is a informer? He says, it's a rat, just like I am. You know?
Okay, so he rats.
Yeah.
And without him ratting, these two guys probably walk, right?
I don't know, but he certainly made sure they're in.
They were in.
Yeah. And a lot of other people, too.
What does the title mean, The Good Rat? Does the good rat mean that he was an effective rat, that he did the job? Or is there some more moral?
No. Well, the moral is he's good for all society, that he gets rid of these people.
Okay, so he does something morally correct.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Talk about...
If he's possible of such an act, he committed it.
Okay. Talk about Rico and Omerta. You go through a whole thing about how this code of silence was broken.
Yeah.
And you don't seem to be a particular favorite of the Rico act.
Oh, no, it's terrible. I don't like it at all.
Why?
Fascism.
And also it puts a lot of your characters into jail.
Well, no, I don't care about that. I saw the guy that started the Rico. What's his name? Blakey?
Yeah, and then he named it after Edward G. Robinson. And
I'm at some affair, and he was there, and he was a professor from the
Little
University
Caesar.
of Notre Dame, and he had a, Catholics first. It's always, my back comes up at that. And the next thing he said, he had this secretary with him, and they're all hovering around him. And then he got up, it was his law, RICO, how to put people away forever. And I looked at him and I says, look at this guy needs a slap. But that's his whole life, is putting people away. Now he's a lawyer against, I don't know, something. He's for the bad side and something.
Oh, so he's doing pro-malo work.
Yeah.
Okay. But it really killed the mafia, right? I mean, you've got bosses ratting.
Yeah. Well, they were ratting anyway. This made it sure they would. So that most of their stuff I never believed. Oh, Murta, keep silent. Most of the time, a good detective that knew how to work had an earache from them telling them what's going on.
Okay, now wait a minute. But you opened the book by practicing kissing in the mirror.
Yeah.
Excuse me, explain this.
The mafia.
You sound a little caught up in this.
No, it was funny. Not fun. The mafia guys started kissing each other. And it started on the corner of Larimer Street and Metropolitan Avenue with Sonny Franchise and Joey Brancato, I guess, from the saloon. They kissed when they met each other. Like the show business people wound up copying them. So they kissed. And then in doing so, an agent trailing them didn't have to do anything but just go with the guy where he kisses.
Was kissing.
That's all.
So this was the giveaway. But you were practicing kissing?
Yeah, well, I wanted to go in their clubs, so I had to be ready.
Talk about you as a beginning reporter and how you became Jimmy Breslin, sort of the confidant of the mobsters. In a sense, you legitimized them and they legitimized you.
Well, I didn't legitimize them, if you read.
No, I don't mean in terms of approving what they did, but in a sense, you gave them what they wanted, which was sort of the exposure and the glory.
Well, let's start with I needed blank space filled.
Right.
So the hell
But
with
why
them.
them? Why them?
Oh, I'll tell you why. Here we go. Suppose that I'm starting out. I know one story that started me off big. Right?
Go on.
I went to the sentencing of Tony Provenzano from the Teamsters in Newark for extortion and everything. Now the newspaper I was on had a little problem. The reporter had been going there, putting the paper about Tony's girlfriend and second wife, and he didn't like it, and they were growling, and the guy didn't want to go back. So they said, Breslin, what the hell?
So they sent you?
Yeah, I come out of covering prize fights.
Now, what paper were you at?
New York Herald Tribune.
You were at the
1,000 years ago.
Huh? At least.
So I go over there, and it's, I've been around boxing, covering fights.
Sure.
I mean, they figured I knew my way around a dressing room. So I went there, and they're all there in the place, in the hallway outside the courtroom. Tony Provenzano, all his brothers and cousins and associates in his labor union local, which was a racket thing. He had just thrown somebody down an elevator shaft. He was there.
Very pleasant people.
Tony. And they're hitting each other. They're all punching each other on the shoulder. Now, that's like a street corner. I knew it didn't mean anything. And it just made it, there was no problem.
So growing up in Ozone Park made you comfortable with that?
No, it was the same as Ozone Park. Well, it wasn't comfortable, but I'm there, I'm with them, I know what it is.
Right.
And Matt Boylan, of all people, now I knew him, the prosecutor, he knew. When he came walking in, he says, you better check the ring, it's bigger than the thing they got in India. That's exactly what he said. It was Tony Pro had a ring on that was huge. And when he sat in the courtroom and the light hit it, it exploded around the place. So I centered on that when I wrote the story.
Well, one of the things of you as a journalist, writing the column, as well as, the gang that couldn't shoot straight, was your characterizations of these folks, sort of looking at some of the minor characters or looking at the major characters in a different way?
Yeah.
You always wrote columns like that, focusing on sort of the oblique. I remember the piece that you did at JFK's funeral. I read it subsequently, where you focused on the gravedigger.
Yeah.
What was it? Go ahead.
There's morons in the news business. It comes out of sports. All the time, if you're writing sports the way they used to, writing about sporting events for people to read, you attempted to get the loser. The loser's dressing room, or the loser always was the best story. Mm. Now, the best column ever read and ever done in this country, Murray Kempton, God rest his soul, and I agreed, was The Death of Battling Siki by Westbrook Pegler. And it was in the Chicago Tribune, 1935. By far the best.
What was it? Now I have to look at this. He wrote about
Battling Siki. He was a light heavyweight champion of the world, and they told him that he couldn't drink, and they had speakeasies in his building. They said he had a little problem with a gun. They told him, you're going to go to prison if any guns are around. He stopped. Then they gave him the biggest rifle he ever saw and sent him to Belgium to kill Germans, World War I. He came back, and they said, still, you can't drink. It's prohibition. And he lived over a speakeasy where they were up all night. That's every law there was. He saw the other side to it. And finally he died, and Pegler, lead, said they buried old Siki yesterday on Long Island, and it's just as well. He didn't understand a damn thing about life as he was living it. And it turned out that he went into all the differences. It was the best column we ever read. Now, Pegler then turned into a complete nut, and he said, then he explained it, though. Communications, he explained. He wrote about Mrs. Roosevelt all the time, the widow Roosevelt. You know, you wanted to die when you saw her.
Okay. Talk about journalists. I mean, you're not really happy with the reporters of the current day.
No, well,
and in fact, newspapers of the current day. Yeah. Why don't you do a little screed on reporters
if there's 51-word lead sentences in newspapers done by well-educated, attempting to show their education. I guess they went to 2 colleges. They put in, and it's not. Well, I'll give you one stupid little thing.
Go ahead.
Just to start the day here. I see a story in the newspaper. A short story. It starts New York Daily News. It says the home of hip hop started in a basement in an apartment in the Bronx. They say the Bronx. Period. I don't know what building, what apartment, what is it? Nothing. New York Daily News does not have where it is. Now we go to the Newsday out from Long Island. It's longer. They at least say Sedgwick Avenue. Still, no, they said, yeah. Now the New York Times went a step further, and they finally put in the address, 1504 Sedgwick. I want to know the cross streets. In the old days, they gave it to you in the newspaper.
Okay, now is the difference between the old-style reporters, and I include you and Hamill and Duggan, you shoe leather reporters.
Yeah.
You complain that the reporters today go on the internet, and specifically you say, Jerry Capicci's Gangland. So is that the critique, that they've lost the sense of on the ground?
Everybody has. You Carey one day, when he was running, he was at the bar the end of the day.
For governor?
So we had a drink. And he said, I can tell how our campaign is going by my shoes, how it feels in the feet when you're around walking. I said, how do you think I've been making my living since I'm 16? What is this? You discovered something? Well, we go then. I call a Wilda Cordero from the Bronx. She's down in Brownsville, Texas, for Obama. We got her to go there. She's got a poverty law center on East 143rd. We call up. She says, I don't like this. This is lousy. Well, I said, they're all in the headquarters on computers making phone calls. Nobody's on the streets.
Different time.
She says, I went out and put placards in every store on the main street. I went out, I go into houses. She's a veteran.
The old way.
Well,
the effective way.
The old way is the winning way. I mean.
Okay. You hung around with mobsters, but in 1970, you took a a beating.
Never happened.
It never happened.
No,
Wait a second.
That's journalism at its best today. That came over the, what do you call the thing, the internet. Somebody just put it on, and it's there.
That's not true that in 1970?
No, never happened.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I got duped?
Yes, and if it did, I mean, I would use it as a badge.
I would think that would be perfect.
Never happened. Not even close.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
You can't trust the internet.
No. Oh, Jesus. No,
no, don't start. Don't start. No. I take it back.
Wait a minute. Do you read blogs? You actually look at them?
Yes.
You do? I never looked at one in my life.
I don't know. That may be a badge of honor. It may not be.
Why?
Okay. Let's not get the blog.
Wait a minute. Some guy
ahead.
sits at his kitchen table and writes what he thinks, which is, who cares?
Okay.
And they put it out, and then somebody reads it and says, look at that, what the blog said.
Okay. Son of Sam.
Yeah.
You get a letter.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
And you were in the Bronx's Burn. You've been playing yourself lately.
No, I didn't. That was a good actor. Michael Raspola played me. Good actor.
I thought it was you. You looked younger.
That's how good
he was. Good.
Yeah, he was terrific.
So talk about this letter.
What
Son of Sam.
Two. There had been shootings that nobody really noticed around town, and then
didn't notice.
No,
I mean,
nobody noticed. Wait a minute. I'm telling you, they didn't. Notice.
Go ahead.
They had a couple in the Bronx. Then one that'd been shooting in Station Square, Forest Hills, and a young woman was shot, and the guy ducked, and the cops were mad at him, and nobody. That was the big thing.
I remember. I lived in Queens at the time.
There was a shooting, though, during the afternoon, late afternoon before, right in Forest Hills, the same area, and a young woman, Virginia Voskerichian, was coming home from Barnard College, and the guy jumped out of the bushes with a gun. The street was empty. It was between subway trains arriving or something. So she held a big, thick textbook to her face. He put the gun against it and shot, and she's gone. Now, in the morning, I got there, and there was a detective I knew, Andy Camera. He was sifting the pine needles from the bush trying to find something. And he told me, he said, you know, we had a killing over here with a large caliber bullet. He says, and this is a large caliber bullet, I'll bet. He says, I hope they're not the same.
So now they're putting it together that it's a serial killer.
We're in a lot of trouble if they're the same slug. So I went over to the police headquarters where they had a guy was matching the slugs. Now today, you do it, I guess you don't even look. Press a button. The
computer does it.
That day they had one slug here, one slug there. You're looking at the slugs on the screen, and you turn the wheel until...
And the lines.
Yeah, but you turn the wheel for a half hour and stop and go get it. I mean, your eyes go crazy. He worked all day. Finally, late in the day, he says, yeah, they match. And then everybody says, now we're in trouble, you got a serial killer. And I wrote that in the newspaper, New York Daily News. About 24 hours later, Anne Marie in the Daily News, the woman in charge of the columnist section, she was the boss. She said, I got a letter, she called my house, I got a letter I don't like, it gives me the creeps. I said, why? She said, Son of Sam on it. I don't know what this is, some creep. So she said, I don't even want it near me. So I said, call the police, just show it to them. And she did, and they said, yeah, well, I remember Frank McLaughlin saying, we get a lot of crank things. So he picked it up, and he calls back about an hour later, says that thing is alive, and we'd like to see you right away.
And you once remarked, or you remark in this book, that you liked the style of writing in the notes, that it had life.
Then I hadn't seen it, so then I went in to meet them because I had to. Now we're in. Here's this letter in backslash printing, bold, using hello from the gutters of New York, and the blood in the cracks of the cement, and the ants that feed on the dry blood of the sidewalks of the city. And I'm reading this.
You loved it.
Oh, I say, this guy, who the hell? Then he used a semicolon, which nobody can use. He's the only one I ever saw.
Well, if you had nuns, you would be able to use it.
No nobody in it, no criminal ever used it on the.
Okay.
Never used a semicolon.
And now, don't tell me that this was a figment of the blog. I read also that Berkowitz trailed you once and attempted, was going to shoot you, but the dog told him not to go and shoot you?
Right, that's right.
So you were saved by a figment of his imagination?
I went away once to West Hampton. I had to move the family out of the house.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, if he's 2 blocks from where I lived shooting people, and then he's writing letters to where I worked, I mean,
right.
I don't know. So, I put in a burglar alarm in the house on account of that bum, and I'd come home with 5,000 beers that I had nobody home to come home to, and the thing would go off every night. I'd set it off.
Okay.
So at any rate, I go out to West Hampton for one night that summer, and I'm sitting with my wife in a bar on Main Street there. I think it was Shotwell's Pump, they called it. It had a classy name. And the traffic is passing outside. It was raining, and that was all. Now they catch the guy because of the letter that he sent me, the printing. They catch him in Yonkers. And, well, first he parked the car. You know, he parked the car along the Parkway south in South Brooklyn, across from Jamaica Bay. And it sheeped right at the foot there of Bath Beach. And they parked the car, and they gave him a ticket. And 2 things happened. A woman in a window looked at him walking away, and all she could think of was late at night at this place in Brooklyn, Shaw Parkway at night, he's got to be a Puerto Rican or a black. So she made him, for the police artist, a Puerto Rican, and they released a photo of Herman Badillo.
Nice.
As the artist did.
Nice.
Now we get to the other part was they came up with the ticket. And first the cops wouldn't admit they gave a ticket out. They kept yelling in the house, did anyone give a ticket? No, they wouldn't, because the 2 that gave the ticket didn't belong in the area.
So they would just,
who knew
they
what
were poaching.
Who knew what they were? So finally they called Yonkers. It said 303 Pine Street, Yonkers. Berkowitz. They called up the Yonkers police, and they said, we got problems with this guy. They says, we'll be right up. So they got in the car to go, and the guy that had caught the case came running. He said, where he is going? And they said, for coffee. You answer the phones. He says, like hell. He jumped in the car, too, because he knew what it was.
So they busted him.
And they went up to Yonkers, and in the windshield of the car inside was his printing a letter to the Suffolk County District Attorney saying he'd been up there shooting people.
So they got him.
And that's how they got him. But when they asked him then, the night they caught him, they kept asking him things. Bill Clark was one of them. Said, he came running out. He says, where were you, like, August 3rd? Where were you? I says, I was in West Hampton. He says, he was there. That's what he's talking about. The dog told him not to shoot.
Okay. Is this the last of the Mafia books?
Yeah, I got to do a novel. I don't know the last of anything. This could be the last.
Well, the Mafia, if the Mafia is dead, this may be the last of the Mafia
How
books.
is it dead? With a 20-year-olds want to work?
We're back to the work. We're going to have to continue this conversation because we've run out of time.
Well, work is the whole key. It's the key to everything.
So long as there are people who don't want to work, there'll be mobsters.
Yeah, if to get jewelry, not work, I could walk around with rings, tie pins, cars, and broads. Now what?
So, I mean, this is an endorsement for the criminal way of life?
Well, no, you want me to... Well, I know people of... Cy Fuhrer left New Utrecht High School because he was bored, right? He went out and did put those guys at those. If you got a gig, you can walk out. These people have nothing to do but steal.
Sir, thank you. Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. Let us know what you think about this show. You can reach us at CUNY TV. When you get there, click on the bar that says Contact Us and send your email. Whatever it is. Thanks, no thanks, obnoxious, do it. Send it.